Hello, there we go. Hello, welcome everybody to the live match build up for the Arsenal game against PSG in the Champions League. Welcome to the Gunners Voice podcast. If you are joining us live, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, leave your like and your comments. So obviously, guys, we are not too far away from kickoff, just under 45 minutes away. I'm sure most of you have seen the team news already, but if you haven't, I will go through the Arsenal starting 11, let you know my thoughts, and obviously talk about the PSG 11, the key players, etc. So, looking at Arsenal's lineup, it's unchanged from Saturday's 4-2 victory at home against Leicester. So, obviously, that's David Raya in goal. Your back four is Yuri Timber, William Saliba, Gabriel Magalhaes, Ricardo Calafiori in the back four, and then obviously going forward in the midfield, you have a pivot of Thomas Partey and Declan Rice. On the flanks, we've got Bukayo Saka and Gabriel Martinelli. And then up front, we're looking at a interchanging front pair of Kai Havertz and Leandro Trossard. So looking good there. I think most Arsenal fans will agree that this was probably the team that we would most likely go out with, considering the fact that we did win over the weekend. I mean, there were some people calling for maybe Jorginho to come in place of Partey. Do you start Jesus in the Champions League where he's been so impressive for Arsenal? But Arteta does not change his lineup. And I'm quite confident that looking at the team, I think it's a team that over the past couple of games has seemed a lot more settled. Like if you look at City, you look at who did we play on the weekend now? Leicester now against tonight. There's 3 games in a row where he picked the same lineup, and I think that just bodes well for the team and for the confidence. And if you look at the bench, obviously looking at Arsenal's bench, we've got some good news on the bench there for Arsenal, and that is Mikel Merino has been passed fit to potentially make his Arsenal debut tonight. There we have number 23 on the bench for Arsenal. But looking at our bench as well, you've got Gabriel Jesus, you've got Mikel Merino, which I've just mentioned, Raheem Sterling, Miles Lewis-Skelly, and Ethan Wanieri from an attacking perspective, which can come and change the game for Arsenal. A couple of youngsters here. We've got Nathan Butler, Oyedeji, you got Maldini Kakuri, and then you've also got Josh Noah, Linford Robinson, and then obviously our young goalkeeper from the other evening in Jack Porter also making the bench. So I think Arsenal have quite a strong team. I'm quite confident that the boys can definitely get a result tonight. I'll obviously give you my prediction closer to the end of the video, but like I said, I'm quite happy that we've seen some stability from Arsenal, especially since the season. We've had a few injury scares here and there, or injury issues, should I rather say. I think for Arteta to be able to name the same 11 3 games in a row is just going to bode well for us. And obviously, looking at the Arsenal lineup, I think some of the key players in tonight's game, I think it's we can even start it from the back. I think David Raya is gonna need to have a big game for us, in my opinion. Um, especially you always want your keeper to be able to not necessarily bail you out of situations, but to keep you in games. So obviously, PSG have their threats, but I'm really hoping that David Raya can keep us in the game for as long as possible. He's been really good at probably our player of the season so far, if you have to ask quite a few people. Obviously, I think a player that will be important, obviously, for us, and we saw his importance on Saturday, will be number 33. That is Ricardo Calafiori in that full-back position on Arsenal's left-hand side, linking up very well with Gabriel Martinelli. And just, I think, his ability to invert and also overlap and also to be quite good on both feet will be a big plus for us. I'm keen to see how he does in one-on-one defending against Desiree Dewey. I hope I'm saying his name, or the PSG winger, Doe. I hope I'm saying it correctly, because I think Calafiori's one-on-one defending has left a little bit to be desired. But ultimately, I'm happy that he's in the squad. I'm happy that he's fit, and I'm expecting another good performance from him. Then obviously going forward, I think it's quite difficult to not speak about Bukayo Saka. That's obviously him being the captain tonight as well. I think which is huge for him to lead out Arsenal in a European night. I think that's going to be such a big confidence booster and just goes to outline the importance that Saka has in this team. The fact that Arteta is giving him the captain's armband. Saka's only 23. I think that just bodes well for his confidence, and it shows the levels of the player that has developed at Arsenal and under Arteta over the past couple of years. another interesting player for I think for Arsenal fans to keep a keen eye on from our perspective is Gabriel Martinelli. I think a goal and 2 assists in his last 2 games. If you're considering the league games against City and Leicester, I think Martinelli will probably have a really good battle up against a fullback who's also quick, who's also strong in Ashraf Hakimi. So I'm keen to see how Martinelli plays tonight. I think I don't know. I'm not too sure how PSG will line up. I don't know if they'll press us or if they'll allow, or if they'll sit back and ask us to break them down and look to hit us on the counter. So I'm hoping that there can be a bit more space for Martinelli, who I think needs the game to be slightly stretched to be as effective. Um, I'm seeing people asking for predictions, guys. I'll give my predictions as soon as I'm done. Just obviously going over our team news and those kind of things. Um, excuse me. But what I will say though is that I am expecting an Arsenal win. And then obviously, I think someone that can have another big game for us from the Arsenal perspective is Leandro Trossard, guys. I think Trossard has shown us many occasions that he is our clutch player. And in one of the group chats that I'm in, they asked, "Who do you think will score for Arsenal tonight? Who will open the scoring?" And I put Leandro Trossard out of all the players because Trossard just has that minerals. He's just has that about him. He's a really ice cold finisher. He doesn't need lots of chances. So I'm hoping that Trossard can continue his good form as well that he showed over the weekend. Got a goal. Maybe some people should have said maybe he should have gotten two if they had just given him the goal for Ndidi's own goal. But ultimately, that's Leandro Trossard in form. Now let's bring it over to our opposition tonight. I think looking at their team is not a strong PSG that you've maybe seen from a couple of seasons ago. But I do think that this team is more willing to do things for the manager and enforce their style of play, which I do think might be slightly more threatening. I mean, just going through PSG's team here, we've got Gianluigi Donnarumma in goal. We've got Ashraf Hakimi, Marquinhos, Pacho, and Nuno Mendes, who are the uh, back four for PSG tonight. Then in the midfield, quite a young midfield if you actually look at it. I thought maybe Fabian Ruiz would get game time today, or definitely from the start. But no, Luis Enrique has decided to go for João Neves, Vitinha, and Warren Zaire Emre in his midfield. I think that's quite brave. And then I think you've got the front three, which I think will probably go into a front two with Lee dropping into the midfield, and Bakola and Dewey just making those runs. So I think there's a lot of quality in this PSG side. They are quite young, so it just depends how they handle the occasion. But I don't think it'll be an easy game, as many Arsenal fans are predicting. It's just because at the level be taken seriously as some of the best emerging talents in Europe. And then a player that's been in exceptional form for PSG, that's Bradley Bacola. I think he's really taken the mantle of having PSG's or leading PSG's attack. In the I wouldn't call it absence. Well, it's the absence of Ousmane Dembele, but also the departures of the likes of Lionel Messi, Neymar, and Kylian Mbappe. I think Bradley Bacola is definitely going to be someone that we're going to need to keep an eye on. I'm actually really excuse me, really happy that Ben Jurgen Timber starts in that position, because I think Timber is a much better one-on-one defender than White. But at the same time, I also think that Saliba will be able to assist in shutting down Bradley Bacola. So let me know in the comment section, guys, if there are any changes that you would have maybe made to this lineup. Do you think Arteta should have maybe given Ethan Wanieri a debut? I mean, and I think that's something that we can discuss. I mean, looking at the ages of João Neves and Warren Zaïre Emery in particular for PSG, you got a 20-year-old and a 17-year-old or 18-year-old, and it's like, does Ethan not want to go, or does Arteta not think that Ethan is capable of handling this kind of occasion? Because you think about it, those are basically his peers. Players that are 24, 25. I don't think you can compare Ethan to them, in my opinion. You're going to compare Ethan to your Jude Bellinghams, your Warren Zaïre Emre's, your João Neves type players. And I think if Arteta had started him, which I wouldn't have been against, I think it would have been really interesting to see how Wanieri fares against some of the best players in Europe around his age group. I do think Wanieri will get game time. but I think also the context will matter. I don't just think you put the boy on just just to put him on. I think if the game is there to be seen out, I think what is simply for Arteta to do is then bring on Marino, bring on Jorginho. But if you're chasing a goal and the game's tight, I think he's definitely shown just in that he is a confident player, a player that takes courage. And I think Arteta did say that in his post-match press conference against Leicester, was that he was so happy to see the courage that Ethan showed. So I'm hoping that Arteta can give him some minutes in a big game like this. It is PSG. It's maybe not the PSG from 2, 3 years ago with the names that they have, but ultimately these are the French champions. And they are going to want to prove a point. They've won their first game in the Champions League last week, no, a week before last, and they'll look to make it 6 points from six. I think the onus and the pressure is on Arsenal. I think if PSG come out here with a draw, that's 4 points from a possible six. If we come out with a draw, that's 2 points from a possible six, and then we have to, really start to have a little bit of a look and see, why are we struggling in Europe. But I do expect Arsenal to come and take the game to PSG. I don't think we will be afraid. I think that the Champions League experience from last season will bode well for the players that we have now currently. And I'm do expecting Arsenal to put on a performance. I don't think it'll be an easy victory, not at all. But I do think that we can get the victory. And look, I see some comments here in the comment section from Ethan saying, I don't think they will score, to be honest. And I can see why people will think that, because you look at their front line and there's no one that, not say that doesn't stand out, but obviously if you can keep Bradley Bacola quiet, you just think, okay, Kolomwani against Saliba and Gabriel, does he maybe get the better of them? Maybe not, considering Arsenal's latest performances in terms of their defensive solidness in recent times. Uh, Difference will matter, but ultimately, if you finish in the top eight, you know that's the most important thing when it comes to this league format. So for me, for tonight's game, guys, I'm going to go 2-1 Arsenal. Uh, Nights. It's very difficult for managers sometimes to always be defensively resolute, considering the type of competition. You don't always play these teams every week, but I do think that the home ground advantage, the experience that we have, I think the quality that we have, will definitely be able to hurt PSG. So those are just some of my predictions, guys. If you have your predictions, if there's, please leave them in the comment section. I'm keen to see what everybody's thoughts are. I think there's a lot of excitement when it comes to the Arsenal fan base. I think that a lot of Arsenal fans are keen to see how we fare against some of Europe's best teams, which PSG certainly. Even look at their manager, Luis Enrique. You know, when Arteta was struggling for a while, there was that one December, just a couple seasons ago, where the pressure's really on. I was like, Luis Enrique was my number one candidate for the job, because I just really liked what he did with Barca. And I mean, he's able to translate that kind of similar, style of play. And obviously, the trophies aren't there in terms of the European trophies, but at PSG, you can see that these players are buying into the system. And I mean, it's a big call for him to leave out his star player in Ousmane Dembele, but I have to respect it. He's basically saying that no player is bigger than the team, and I think his comments yesterday were that he wants all his players to be super focused, and he wants no distractions. He wants nothing. And I think if Dembele is not 100% here or focused, I think, especially with it being the Champions League, a couple of defeats, maybe 2, 3 defeats in the competition, and you can look at yourself almost out of the competition. So I think Enrique is looking at it like, we need to be at our best. Arsenal are going to be difficult to break down. They also, going to give us threats in terms of going forward. Like I said, Saka, Martinelli, Havertz, Trossard, Jesus on the bench, Sterling. I think so. Enrique is looking at it that he needs to have everybody on board, get a result. And I think the result for PSG is a draw, in the sense that they wouldn't be upset if they walked away with 1 point. I think a win for them, that's great. I think then it puts them well within the favorites to get into the top eight. I know it's only 2 games in after this, but I know it's just the momentum, to have a tough first game against Girona in Spain. No, was it Spain? I think it was home. I can't remember if it's home or away. But then going to the Emirates against Arsenal and getting a victory, I think that will just do wonders for their confidence. And I think a lot of people will take them seriously this season. I do consider them some of the better teams, or consider them some of the better teams in the competition, who have a good chance of winning it. You maybe just look at the team and think they maybe just have slightly less experience, but I don't think that we should not take them lightly at all tonight. I think we need to with our best game. The boys need to be focused, and I hope the Emirates crowd is really up for it. I hope the Emirates crowd, and we make it uncomfortable for them. I think that's what Arsenal need to do on these big European nights: is turn the Emirates into a cauldron. People or other teams need to come to the Emirates and know that you're at the Emirates. They need to feel that pressure. We've got Danny with his prediction, and he's going similar to me. Says his prediction is 2-1 to the Arsenal. And I think you know what, as an Arsenal fan, especially like I said, this early in the competition, I just want to win. Winning just breeds more winning. So, obviously, it would be great to get a dazzling performance, but ultimately, there's the Champions League. It's not knockout stages just yet, but it's kind of knockout stages. It's like at a certain point you can't redeem yourself in this competition. So I think it's very important that our home games we win and our away games we don't lose. And I think that will see Arsenal definitely qualify in the top eight of this competition. Um, just looking at some more news regarding the teams. I'm just looking at the bench for PSG. They do have some quality on the bench. Marcos Asensio, a multiple-time winner of the Champions League with Madrid. I beg your pardon. We've got Rando Kolomowani, who's obviously their striker, who's got a lot of experience. Good quality, strong, quick. Fabian Ruiz, who had an excellent Euro 2024. With Spain obviously winning there, and he's definitely someone that can come on and really get his foot on the ball and start to dictate play. So what I'm hoping for Arsenal is that we can kill this game off as soon as possible. I was watching a podcast earlier from Charles Watts, and he was saying that Arsenal should have the similar approach that Newcastle had to PSG last season at St James's Park, where it's you just go at them gun ho from the get go, and just put them under pressure, try get an early goal, unsettle them, and I think if we can get that done, I think then it gives me a lot more confidence. The longer the game stays at 0-0, I think the more nervy the Emirates and even me at home will be, because you think PSG have the quality to just nick that one goal, and then maybe it's just not your night. You have another 36 shots like you did against Leicester on the weekend, but this time it just doesn't go in. So in my opinion, if I'm Arteta, if I'm Arsenal, I'm setting those boys up tonight to go out for the kill as soon as possible. If you can get 2 goals like you did over the weekend in the first half, I think doing that would just show the level of a team we are, but at the same time also tell PSG that, listen, these are serious. This is a serious team. Um, yeah, look, I think this is going to be a very interesting game. I think two managers who have a lot of respect for each other. We know they spoke about each other highly in their press conferences. Luis Enrique, like I said, he's a Champions League winner before. You know, from Barcelona, knows how to play good football. And obviously, you have our manager Mikel Arteta, who's yet to taste any sort of major success apart from the FA Cup. But if you ask, you just look around what other managers think of Arteta, he's spoken about highly in the managerial, sphere. So I think it's going to be a very interesting game, very tactical game. I'm hoping that it's not a game that's you know too tactical. I would like to see the teams go at each other. I think these are two young teams, so you'd want to see them actually try and outdo each other. I'm hoping that we can maybe even have a Champions League classic. Maybe a 3-1, 3-2. I know Arsenal fans wouldn't like that, but I just think for the Champions League and how that aura of the Champions League, you always associate the Champions League with entertainment and really good games. So I don't want us to, and I don't want, because obviously, I mean, if we win 1-0, I'm happy, but I want us to also show impetus and put our foot down and play and show the rest of Europe that, listen, no, Arsenal are a serious team. Because I mean, if you look at it, Arsenal got some tough Champions League games. You've got Shakhtar Donetsk, you've got Inter Milan, you've played Atalanta already. You're playing PSG tonight. So those are some things for Arsenal to have to navigate. And I think the more you can dominate those games and show your quality, I think going throughout the tournament it just bodes well. Teams don't want to draw you. Teams will look at Arsenal and say, listen, look what they did to at Atalanta, coming away with 1 point. Look at if they beat PSG tonight. Look at them going to Ukraine and winning against Shakhtar. Look at them maybe getting a win at San Siro against Inter, who are really, really good, who kept City to a no draw. So I think for Arsenal, the Champions League is going to be big this season. Not necessarily that you have to win it, but I think the better you are in the Champions League, the more respect you will gain from the rest of Europe in terms of Arsenal as a force. And I think that also just bodes well for our league form, because you win tonight, it also sets up your confidence for the next home game, which obviously before the international break now against Southampton. I think it'll be very, very important that Arsenal really do what they need to do tonight. And I cannot stress that enough. It was one thing coming away from Atalanta with that 1 point, but our home games, and I always maintain this, you need to win your home games. Your home games are so vital in progressing from the Champions League. It always has been, um, especially now with this new league format. So look, I think we are in store for a really good game. Um, let's hope that the Emirates crowd can really give the boys the energy, because sometimes you watch games at the Emirates and you just sometimes just feel like the crowd is a bit flat, and a bit nervy. But I want tonight to be like cauldron settings. Like they need to come there and really know, like, okay, look, this is the Emirates. It's not just like you coming to England, or you're going to just Arsenal anymore. It needs to be a fortress for Arsenal. We've got Ethan here giving a prediction. He says 4-2 to Arsenal will be great from an entertainment perspective, but PSG is a good team, and I don't think we'll have our way. Look, I have to agree with you, Ethan, and that's what I said. I said I don't think Arsenal will come here and beat PSG 3-0 just because they've got a bit of a weaker squad, or maybe some players that we don't really know. I think you have to respect them. But at home, I'm backing us because I think defensively we're good. But the only thing I actually say to the point I just made about us being good defensively is that we're quite leaky at home. We tend to concede at home. Hence why I said 2-1. But look, I think if, like I said, if we get early goals, I think we can score 3, 4 goals. Definitely. The longer PSG keep it tight in terms of not conceding, if they're not conceding, but we are making lots of chances, then I think the fans will be quite okay. If it's a case that we are not creating many chances and they're keeping us out and frustrating us, I think that's when you'll just see the Emirates crowd get slightly nervy. And I want to see an improvement from Arsenal in that perspective. I want to see Arsenal and Ateta manage this game correctly. You know what I'm saying? So that the fans can be behind the team the whole game. And sometimes, yes, you need your fans to get behind you and support you when you're down. But sometimes you also need to give fans a reason to be behind you and really see the vision of what the team is trying to become. And I think this is a big test for Ateta. Coming up against such an experienced manager in the Champions League, Ateta's really got a poor record if you look at it in European guys in European football. It's where he's really struggled. Cup competitions, weirdly enough, even though he's won the FA Cup. So I think it's going to be big. I think it's big for his reputation as a manager. He's come up against some of the best managers in the world. He's beaten Pep, he's beaten Klopp. To add Luis Enrique to that hat, he's beaten Unai Emery, he's beaten who do we have? You can say Ten Hag. Ten Hag is obviously at Manchester United, so you're not a mug if you're a Manchester United coach. You must have some sort of something about you. I think who else? You're looking at Chelsea, then the likes of Mauricio Pochettino. So I think those are quite experienced managers that Teta's come up against. And I think Enrique, to add that other feather in his cap, I think will just bode well for Teta and for his confidence. Um, so yeah, guys, I think that's basically covered the build up for today's game. There's not much more for me to add. I just want to see if there's any other news for me to add. Maybe there's any last minute news regarding the teams. You never know. Let's just see now. Mm, Look, actually, I just want to touch on the Usman Dembele thing again. Is just that you know this could be it could backfire for Enrique, Luis Enrique, the manager for PSG, if Arsenal go to the Emirates tonight and really put on performance. And the questions will be asked, but what was it really necessary to leave him out of this big game? But if they come out with a win, he looks like his decision is vindicated and he's going to be spoken about as a genius. So, in my opinion, I'm keen to see how PSG adapt to not having Dembele, because I think Dembele is a dangerous player. You know, very good on both feet, exceptionally fast, skillful. You know, and I won't lie to you, I haven't really watched much of PSG. And I don't really watch the French league, and that's not a disrespect to the French league. It's just that I've got nothing that has necessarily brought me to the French league. You know, so I've seen things about some of their players. Like I said about Bacola, about the other forward Doe. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. I don't hope I'm not butchering it. Um, and then obviously, like I said, in their midfield, those young players in their midfield is just it's going to be interesting to see, obviously with the likes of Party, with the likes of Declan Rice, who have got a lot more experience than them. How do they come up against that level of experience? Is the experience going to, you know, win us the game today, or maybe is it PSG's youthful exuberance that maybe wins them the game? But like I said, guys, we will find that all out in the next 20 minutes. Well, that's when it starts, and then obviously we'll take it from there and then see what our reaction is regarding the performance. As always, guys, it's been great. This is just the first ever live build up to a match. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed some of my insights. If you are a fan of the channel, please don't forget to like and leave us a comment. Also, don't forget to hit the subscription button, as that is a way to keep yourself in the loop of everything Arsenal related. As always, guys, from us at the Gunners Voice podcast, it's good to be a Gooner.